Leftovers is live. Hassan v. Ethan lol. Are they fighting?
After I saw you say this, I was quite shocked because I hadn't heard that. And in my research, looking for it.
I have to pee.
Go ahead, I'll wait for you. No, well, I'll
flawless debate tactic. Insurmountable.
Go ahead, I'll wait. I'll talk to Dan.
The overwhelming amount of media in the opposite direction that is the regular everyday
just to be
media
clear,
coverage.
we did spend the first 2.5 hours doing just that.
No, I know. I know. But we talked more so about the real issues on the ground.
Had seen this coming. Every Israeli official said it was a complete surprise. And I think we have to sit with that, because as of just a couple days ago, they said that surprise wasn't possible. They said we control every inch of Palestine.
No, they don't!
They said we have walls, we have cameras, yes, we have traitors too, and there's nothing they can do that we won't see of what we do. They were so arrogant. But just less than 24 hours ago, on the land, from the sea, and from the air, the people of the Gaza Strip, our people from Gaza, our young people are riding their bikes through these settlements where they were told they could never go because of apartheid. Our farmers.
Ethan pulled up that second thought clip with Akeem earlier saying settlers don't equal civilians, and Hassan would have had to defend them, right? Yeah. It's pretty stupid.
The farmers of Gaza.
I don't think he condemns Hamas, though. Guys! I don't think this guy condemns Hamas. Mods!
They say that they can't even have tractors. They say that's terrorist equipment. Well, unfortunately for them, the tractors of these various so-called kibbutz settlements have been liberated and taken back to the farms.
I mean, that's insane, right?
I don't even. Yeah. Okay. Like.
Okay.
I don't.
I'm just criticizing people. You don't have to comment if you're not comfortable about it.
Okay. I mean, I have no.
I mean, he was just like, I don't like this shit.
Okay.
It bothers me.
I understand why. I understand
He
why you
goes,
don't
the
like it.
electrified hang gliding heroes flew in and killed a bunch of hipsters partying. They were having so much fun at the party till these heroes showed up and mass murdered everyone. Oh, and we liberated the kibbutz, by the way. Everyone's cheering. We liberated the kibbutz, a.k.a. beheading babies.
I will once again present to you the same exact question. If this rally was not held and if he had not said those things that I do not agree with, do you think that there would be a difference in the analysis and the way that Palestinian people are treated? Do you think that there would be a difference in the bombing campaign that's going on? Or do you think that this is, once again, the violent sentiment of...
Hassan is mostly correct here. Like, we have every reason to believe that whether or not people condemn or don't condemn Hamas, it's not going to make Israel any less fucking brutal, right? Like, I agree that Israel should not conflate Hamas with Palestinian liberation, but let's not pretend that if everyone acted super duper good and nice and we all condemned Hamas and we were all perfect and we were all like me in our response or whatever, that Israel and the whole world would be like, oh, well, now that we see that you don't conflate Hamas and Palestinian liberation, we're gonna embargo Israel and get them to lay off on the Palestinian people. That is bullshit. It's one of those overfixation things, right? Like, I agree that the condoning of Hamas is bad, but let's not pretend that condoning is like institutionally powerful. Does that make sense? Like, don't do the overfixation thing where you turn into one of those losers who acts like, oh, if only the left had perfect optics, then everything would be good. And because they don't, that's the problem. And now I'm going to spend all my time fixating on this. You know, that's why I said, like, the subreddit has to chill out too. Like, yes, you can point out that the lefties are bad on this, but the people suffering here are not suffering because of bad lefty takes. They're suffering because of Israel. So far, Hassan hasn't said anything wrong. Yeah, Demon Mama. I haven't seen Hassan say anything incorrect yet, though. Like maybe he has. He gets along with the Second Thought, Yogopnik, Hakim deprogram podcast thing, and that podcast is pretty bad. So maybe he defends them at some point, but I don't really know.
Those who are siding with the oppressed, that is ultimately
I don't know.
utterly
about that,
and
but I'll tell you-
entirely inconsequential.
I'll tell you this.
Because
I know
all
that's
this
fucking
does,
evil.
all this does,
I know that,
all this does
and I have no problem to
is
say it.
to all this does is to serve a singular purpose, and that purpose I do not believe you are on board with, but that purpose is cynical. When people go, look at these guys, they're all violent.
There it is.
That is by design what mainstream media in America is doing when they constantly, exclusively cover the Palestinian side.
All right.
Here's his take on this, and
There we go.
let's listen.
Sent Faisal, thank you very much. He says, did the Palestinians actually take civilian hostage, or is that fake news? I don't care.
Yeah, the occupiers
I don't-
are
I-
not civilian.
First of all, just straight off the bat,
The person that's talking is Hakim. He is a doctor in Iraq, and of
And a genocider of Kurdish people. Yes.
course, just to put this into a decent frame of reference for those who are unfamiliar, I think he will probably have a much more ruthless position on the matter, considering how he feels about American forces and what they've done to his
This
home,
I'm pretty
his
sure is
family.
all second thought.
No, the one who said
No, I know. But
Yeah.
Here.
Sent Faisal, thank you very much. He says, did the Palestinians actually take civilian hostage, or is that fake news?
So wait, who's talking there?
that's Hakim.
Okay, so
They should have it, if they're doing a live thing, they should have it so their mics activate a little voice bubble over them, right? Because they're doing like a live stream where they're like the drawings, so they should have it so when his mic activates, there's like a little beep, and then when his, there's like a beep. That'd be cool.
so second thought's the one who says I don't care and laughs.
I can't, wait, say it.
I don't care.
This
no,
guy.
that's
The
Hakim.
occupiers,
I don't.
The guy with the accent.
Yeah, that's Hakim. Second thought is an American.
So second thought is the guy who's asking the question.
No, Hakim is the one who read it.
sent
He's
Faisal.
reading it from chat. It's a
Thank you
super
very much. He says,
chat.
did the Palestinians actually take civilian hostage, or is that fake news? I don't care.
yeah,
Well, anyway, he agrees with him. So let's just fucking
Yeah,
listen
go
to the
on.
clip.
the occupiers
I don't-
are
I-
not civilians. That is what it comes
Yeah.
down to. Like if imagine,
French-
like if
Sorry, go on.
Germany, let's say Germany to be non
That's him, right?
I think, yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
controversial.
And not that it matters.
invaded the United States, and they said, you know what, Cincinnati, Ohio is our ancestral home, and
True.
you know everyone knows that's blatantly false. But they take your home, they murder your grandma,
What's up, Harris?
they bulldoze like your neighbor's house. Are those people civilians there? No, they're occupiers, and those are criminals. That is, there are no civilians there. In the
So-
illegal-
You wanna
So
pause it?
according to second thought,
Mm-hmm.
So again, obviously, being a settler or being a participant in a settler colonial project does not make you a militant, and it doesn't make you a criminal. That is not what those words means. It makes you a settler. You know, I feel again, it's like that terminological thing where people keep falling into this pit, and people do this time and time again, where they feel like the purpose of many of these terms is to carry moral weight. So if they want to describe something having a bunch of moral weight, they just throw more terms on top of it. It's the same mental disease that leads a lot of lefties when they're making a criticism of doing this, like, I think this person is a problematic, trans-misogynistic, transphobic, da, 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 where they like layer more shit on top of as if they think they're trying to rack up like a multiplier combo, and it doesn't like add to the description or the meaning. It takes away from the meaning, you know?
he says that every Israeli is an occupier and there are no citizens there in response to
There are
decapitating
two
babies, which I
different
can now say.
there are two different schools of thought here. So the first is
and the take in the
19
comments is based.
yeah, of course. The
Ah.
1948ers
I'll just be here, whatever.
believe that there's two different schools of thought within I would say anti-Zionism.
Total hypothetical, would Jews escaping a concentration camp be wrong in murdering a bunch of German citizens? Well, hold on. That depends massively on the context. If they break out of a concentration camp and German citizens try to stop them, yes, they can do whatever they want. like in their effort to escape or whatever, like they're trying to like get out of the area or like escape to some neighboring country, and citizens are trying to, like civilians are trying to stop them. Yeah, that's self-defense, baby. Those if they get stopped, they get killed. They can do whatever they want on the way out. But if they escape and then like vindictively out of revenge start killing civilians, then no, of course that's bad. You may argue that like the civilians are still morally culpable. Yeah, but like if we're doing that, we got to do it through trials. You know, we can't do like the infinite circle of vengeance where it's just like people have like carte blanche permission to just murder because they're like associated with or adjacent to the cause. You don't know directly. You can't know personally. But if they try to stop you, then that's self-defense, yeah.
Those who believe that all matter of settlements that were propped up even in the inception of the Israeli nation state are...
If someone sees them, would it be morally right to kill them so they can't go to the police? I don't know. At this point, we're getting into like granulars, right? At this point, we're getting like increasingly morally dicey. I guess my default would be if you are a Jew who broke out of a concentration camp and you're like freaking out and just doing whatever you can to survive, and then on the way you like killed a guy because he saw you and you wanted to shut him up. I don't know if I have it in my heart to denounce that, because like, man, like can you put yourself in the mind state of a Jew who just broke out of a concentration camp and is trying to escape? You are in like the most possible, you are in like the most hostile territory conceivable, you know? Like so my default here would be like, there's no morally clean direction, but I'm gonna be really fucking sympathetic to anyone in that spot, you know? It's the same reason why, like, in the Haitian Revolution, the Haitian revolutionaries killed a lot of innocent people while they were, like, breaking free of their chains to take the island, and I don't really morally condemn that. What I do morally condemn is after the revolution had won, they had mixed race slaves go door to door, killing white families who had already been captured as a way of proving their loyalty to the black revolutionaries over the white slave owners. That's what I morally condemn. Because, like, in that case, the violence has taken place after the context where it can be used in, like, a self-defensive manner. But I still defend the overall revolution, because honestly, like, really messed up shit like that happens in revolutionary conditions, and you can condemn the messed up behavior without condemning the broader project, right? Basically, every just war has had within it unjust behavior, you know? Like, the Allies, I'm sure, like, Allied soldiers did plenty of up shit to civilians moving in on Germany. Like, I'm sure, of course. Like, and you can point that out, but that's not an argument against, like, the broader, yeah, war is bad. Basically, is the whole thing. How does this compare to Israel-Palestine? It doesn't really, because the situation is different. The situation is much more complicated. Human Rights Watch has come out and said Israel has used white phosphorus in Gaza and Lebanon. Right now? This is confirmed now? Oh, holy shit. Okay, those videos were verified. Wow. That's insane. There's no reason for them to even be doing this. Like this is just pure, like, terror tactics. I guess it's kind of good that the Gaza Strip is so dense that it's basically all concrete or whatever. I don't think they have much wood building material there. White phosphorus could light the entire strip ablaze if the conditions were right. I guess they're right next to the water, too.
Are unjustifiable, and that they are settlers, that so they extend beyond your perspective that you agree with, which is because West Bank is a settler occupation.
I think it's an extremely evil thing to say, what he said.
Let me ask you this.
No. What do you think? What he said is evil?
I think it is, one, unproductive, and two, it does not meet the realities on the ground. And
holy shit! Hassan has put on his optics glove and his optics hat and his optics coat today. Holy shit! Oh my god! Hassan is coming out here in his optics gear. He's huffed a big line of optics before coming out here. He is being so measured in his response. He's trying so hard to keep all of these lines together, you know?
It's not a viable solution.
So calling, just to be clear, calling babies...
No, of course not.
...settlers...
Of course.
And they're not even living...
They're not.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
they're babies.
So I just want to say... I just want to say that this guy's a f***ing evil piece of shit for saying that.
Can we Can I ask you a question?
Can I finish? Let me finish the
Okay,
video.
we'll finish this, but I do
Yes.
have a question for you because
Yeah.
I think you're going to agree
Controversial.
with something I'm about to say.
Yes. Let's just finish it and then we'll talk.
Invaded the United States, and they said, you know what, Cincinnati, Ohio is our ancestral home, and everyone knows that's blatantly false. But they take your home, they murder your grandma, they bulldoze like your neighbor's house. Are those people civilians there? No, they're occupiers, and those are criminals.
Okay, the people who bulldozed your house and murdered your mom, I assume would be the IDF, who are soldiers. All of the people involved here are settlers, but that doesn't mean that all the settlers aren't civilians. You can be a settler and a civilian. A civilian, the civilian distinction is just civilian or military. Basically, it's combatant or non-combatant. Settler is a modifier, but it doesn't determine either of those.
That is, there are no civilians there in the illegal military occupation.
Yeah. So that's number one.
I mean, that's so callous. It's kind of hard to even believe just how flippant he can be about calling babies militants that are deserving to be killed.
I don't think those murdered were even settlers. It was original Israeli territory. Well, original Israeli territory goes back to like 48. There were people alive who saw Israel take their original territory. So, depending on where you want to put that line. But even then, there were also the people at the rave or whatever. But
very beautifully put. Number two, much more importantly,
who were the Viet Cong, combatants or civilians? Combatants. The Viet Cong were a formal military. People have this idea the Viet Cong were all just like rice farmers with hats and old rifles. They were a full military, like with drills and regiment and training and equipment and everything.
The track record of Palestinians has been 1,000 times better than that of the Israeli occupation, despite the fact that Israeli occupation does not need to brutalize. They already have all the power, but they still choose to do far worse. The worst that will happen to a person in Palestinian custody is that they're going to be like auctioned off for a prisoner swap, which is the historic track record also.
And of course,
He's not wrong about this. This is the original goal for the military, the excursion. At least if you believe
I'm not exactly having a ton of faith in the dudes that decapitated babies to treating.
NVA was a military. Viet Cong were guerrillas. Sorry. Yes, the NVA were former military. The Viet Cong, however, like they weren't. Guerrilla army doesn't just mean like civilian farmers with guns or whatever. Like the Viet Cong did have like a much more regimented system for engagement than people often give them credit for.
Their POWs really well.
Well,
I think that's kind of a psychotic take too, where it's like why are you trying to give Hamas the benefit of the doubt on this one? Being like, oh, they treat their prisoners awesome. Let's not try to do that.
Okay. So,
but anyway, and that combined with just the callous, the laughter.
Listen.
Hold on.
Did the Palestinians actually take civilian hostage, or is that fake news? I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're laughing about it.
That's pretty weird, champ.
Let me pose a question for you.
Go ahead.
So you have said that those in the West Bank are fundamentalist settlers. Are you familiar with the international law surrounding the justifiable forms of violence towards?
So first of all,
terror.
I don't put much.
Hakim and second thought are actually evil. Yeah, I think Yagupnik is better though. He was supposed to come on stream and talk like ages ago, and I recently remembered to message him, and he didn't message back, so he might have like shifted over more. But he's not like them. He's better than them, I think.
I don't put any stock, frankly, in whatever these quote international laws are.
Yeah, it's.
But no, I'm not familiar with whatever that says.
Technically, the reason why the IDF has to exist in the West Bank and behave in the oppressive manner that they behave is because Palestinians, and this is going to sound very radical and possibly very violent, but this is a matter of law, and maybe even if you agree with this, a matter of morality. Palestinians have the legal ground to violently seize back their own homes from the settlers. This is a reality. And that is precisely the reason why they have to exist under endless occupation in the West Bank.
You know what? And that's why I say if it was settlers, that would be a lot more.
That's true. What he said what he said definitely isn't wrong. They were literally like forced out at gunpoint in violation of international law. Like 100%, yeah. Morally and like depending on what level we're operating on legally, the people who are ousted from the West Bank, absolutely, like that is they have been illegally taken from their territory. Like think of this comparatively in the United States. If you have a house and then a bunch of criminals like kick you out of the house, you're allowed like you can defend yourself, you know? And this is why I say that Israel uses human shields, because by having the vanguard of their occupational effort be repped by settlers, by civilians, they're essentially making it impossible to fight back against their occupational force without engaging in civilians.
More understandable, but let's not obfuscate. Okay, I understand what you're saying, but this dude just called babies militants.
No, I understand. And there are baby settlers as well. But there are baby settlers as well. There are babies in the settlements.
But the babies that killed were not.
I know.
Okay, so
here's now that we established that.
Yeah.
No, hold on. Now that we established that, the other school of thought here is that all matter of Israelis living on Israel proper are
guys, the babies are a settler. Like if you're a settler or like a colonist or whatever, you can be that as a baby or a 95-year-old. This is why you can't attach moral weight to the term. The term like this baby is a colonist, like a baby can be a colonist, a baby can be a settler. That's why the term settler should not in your mind immediately go like, oh, a valuable target to kill or whatever. Like the term simply describes the relationship that you have to the land that you're on. That's the case whether or not you made a choice to do it or not. It's just a descriptor of your relationship to the land. Settler, colonist, civilian, whatever. You know, the only thing you really can't have, I guess, is like a non-civilian baby, because it's a baby. A baby can't be a legitimate military target.
they're also
fair, but second thought implied the consequence of that. That's because second thought is saying you can't be a civilian if you're a settler, which is bullshit. All settlers are civilians. Otherwise, they would be in the military. They would be in the occupational force. Well, I guess you can have a person who is a settler, but who is also a soldier in the area they're settling. But then I guess I would just call them a soldier, not really like a settler. Whatever.
Doing the exact same thing in the eyes of some. I do not agree with that because...
Here, hold on. Now consider. Now let's ground our priors and consider the hypotheticals at play here. Let's isolate the variables so we can determine what we actually believe. Sorry. Okay.
I don't think that is a reasonable solution, and it's not realistic anyway, and that only will lead to the complete evisceration of Palestinians, and far-right Israelis will use that to continuously radicalize just regular Israeli citizens in their endless bombing campaigns and ethnic cleansing campaigns and the brutal occupation. This is why many thinkers, I believe even including Norm Finkelstein, who has dedicated his entire life to speaking the truth about Israel's occupation, and Noam Chomsky and many others, even Edward Said, as I brought up earlier.
Hassan's trying to glaze over the schizo shit. Hakeem and second thought were saying lol. The problem is that, again, there is absolutely no way to come out morally clean here. The status quo right now with Israel's occupation is genocidal. It's monstrous. So how should Palestine resist? Well, following like the logical through line, okay, if Palestinians are not given an option to manage this diplomatically, which they clearly haven't been, diplomacy has done nothing for them in decades and decades and decades, obviously Palestinians have a moral right to resist through violence, right? Like, and if they resist through violence, innocents will be killed, because that is what happens when you resist through violence. Innocents are being killed right now in Gaza through indiscriminate Israeli airstrikes, as they have been for a long time. There is no way out of this without violence, okay? However, here are the problems I have. For one, Hamas is not an emancipatory or revolutionary organization. They are jihadist militants who do not act in the best interests of the Palestinians. If the Palestinians had a super ultra principled secular militia that fought back, two things would happen. For one, innocents would die. The death of innocents is always regrettable. However, again, Innocents are dying right now in Gaza, and Israel is the institution that set up this set of circumstances. They are the ones who made this conflict unavoidable. For two, if Palestinians resisted in a super principled and secular way, they would lose. Badly. This is why the situation seems so untenable. If Palestinians were capable of some overwhelming victory, even if it cost a lot of lives in the short term, I would think that morally justifiable, because the long-term consequences of the continued Palestinian occupation seem to be genocidal. But that's not the case. This isn't like South Africa, where South African society was built pretty much entirely on the labor of black South Africans, and there are nine black South Africans to every one white South African. In a situation like that, the black South Africans are this like large revolutionary mass, potentially, that is capable, they're capable of meaningfully addressing this issue through force. Not so with the Palestinians. The Palestinians are not broadly integrated into Israel's economy and society at large. Israel could, theoretically, wipe Gaza off the face of the map and continue to function. The same is not the case with black South Africans. So again, what's the solution here? It seems like every direction leads to the killing of civilians. If the Palestinians continue to not resist in a meaningful and organized way, they die. If Palestinians rise up and form this like mass secular militia, they lose and then die. If Palestinians engage in like jihadist terrorist attacks against Israel, innocents from Israel die, and then more innocents in Gaza die. Do you guys understand the problem here? Literally every direction entails civilian death. Who is responsible for this? Israel. The government of Israel has set in play all of the pieces that make this a fact of the matter. Israel could change this. Israel could stop the slaughter. They could properly liberate the Palestinian people, could bring about peace. They do not. They choose not to their mutual detriment, both them and Palestinians, because they are hateful, because they are evil. So again, there's not really any good path here. I just don't like the conflation of Palestinian liberation and Hamas.
Believe that the de-Zionification or the displacement of Israelis from Israel proper, Jewish Israelis, is it's not justifiable and it's not realistic. It's more so a single state solution, at least one that I advocate for, because I know a lot of people advocate for a two-state solution. I'm a one-stater, which
Was there a question?
What?
I thought you said I have a question for you at the beginning of that.
I gave you the question. You already answered it. You said I know your position on like violently seizing back your land from settler occupiers.
Yeah, that's not what they did though. And that's
these
who
guys.
he's talking
No,
about.
these guys, or at least I assume second thought has the perspective that all matter of Israel is all matter of Israel proper is considered settler occupation.
And he's evil for thinking that. He is. Right after babies were murdered and decapitated.
All
I can say that
it's
now.
not
Let me read his further.
If he said this in 1949, I'd have a different opinion on the matter. You can't say this in 2023. I agree.
Let me read this. Thank you for agreeing. What's going on in occupied Palestine is unprecedented. No doubt we'll have wall-to-wall coverage of atrocities now that it's the genocidal settlers on the receiving end. This is what liberation struggle looks like. Solidarity and victory to the Palestinian people. Again, just to put the timing in frame here, he says, no doubt we'll have wall-to-wall coverage when Israel responds. This is while bodies are still bleeding.
Well, I guess the second part did come true. He wasn't wrong on the second part of that conversation, at least. Okay.
What, solidarity and victory to the which part are you referring to?
Wall-to-wall coverage when Israel responds.
Right, but like, and this is my problem. So as the bodies are still bleeding out, and he's saying this is what liberation struggle looks like: beheading babies, burning families alive, solidarity and victory to the Palestinian people. This is pro-Hamas. This man is supporting Hamas.
This is such a difficult thing for me to weigh in on, man. This is really difficult for me to weigh in on because it's like every piece, I disagree with some things and some implications, but then I agree with some other stuff, and I don't agree with Ethan on everything. For instance, the idea that Israeli suffering is given much more media attention than Palestinian suffering is objectively true. Like, the Palestinians have been kept in an open-air prison for decades, killed indiscriminately, and then you have people like Justin Bieber posting, you know, like peace for Israel or like praying for Israel over a picture of Gaza that's been blown apart or whatever. Like, yeah, there is always been, like, Western media has consolidated to speak on the crimes of Hamas and not on the crimes that Israel is currently committing. We literally have, like, Israeli leaders saying, genocide the Palestinians, cut them off with the water, you know? 2.5 million people without water and power. And then the attention is still being given to, like, the babies that were killed. Babies have been killed in Gaza. Like, many babies. Half of the population of the Gaza Strip is children. And they will die without water or power because of decisions Israel is deliberately making. So that is correct, at least.
I think his position is that people that have been trapped, and I can't speak for him, but you can if you want to talk to him. I'm sure he would be willing to come on and speak his piece. I've already mentioned that I don't find this to be particularly helpful or productive as far as this conversation goes, not because, like, I am tasked with defending the positions of other people or even criticize them. It's more so that we know what is currently happening. We are now 3-4 days removed from October 7, and we know what the retaliation looked like, and we know what the occupation has looked like every single day.
That was an obvious reaction.
So that's why I'm saying,
again,
that's what I'm saying. Like a
timing matters.
A YouTuber with
hold on, this guy's influential.
No, I know, Ethan, but his influence is nothing in comparison to the multi-billion-dollar media operation.
I just want to call this guy out. That's what I want to do.
You can call him out.
I just spent
and you can ask
2.5 hours calling out Israel. So now this guy, second thought, he's supporting Hamas. He is pro-Hamas. That's what solid. Hold on.
Okay.
Solidarity and
are Hamas and Palestine the same thing, or is the Palestinian government fighting Hamas too? There isn't really a Palestinian government. There was one election nearly 20 years ago that Hamas won, and Hamas has basically been like criminal, like gang leaders of. There's no democracy in Palestine. There's no real government. You know, Hamas's leaders enrich themselves while radicalizing jihadists. Most people in the Gaza Strip are children, and even ignoring that, most of them have no faith in Hamas. There's just like there's nothing there. Yeah, there's the Palestinian Authority, but how much real governmental control does the Palestinian Authority have? Also, Hamas is in Gaza, not in the West Bank. Yes, Hamas is a Gaza thing. I mean, I'm sure there are some people in the West Bank with sympathies, but they're concentrated in Gaza.
And victory to the Palestinian people.
Oops.
Again, the timing that I keep mentioning, as bodies are being counted, is pro-Hamas. That's it. That's it. There's no other way to interpret that, and it's evil. He continues, imagine someone comes to your town, murders your neighbors, kicks you out of the home your family lived in for generations, and relocates you. Are those occupiers civilians? No, they're criminals and accomplices in genocide.
So this is second thought being completely wrong. Notice how in his hypothetical, the person who murders your neighbors, kicks you out of your home, and relocates you to an open-air prison is all the same guy. Yeah, if that one person is the same, if that one guy, probably not a civilian if he murdered your neighbors and then took you to a camp, okay? But the problem is he is ascribing this broadly to just all Israeli people. Like, are these occupier civilians? I don't think every Israeli was the one who killed your neighbors and took you to Gaza, you know? I don't think that's... I don't think that's the case.
Once again, referring to babies who were decapitated, at least, but again, that doesn't matter. 40 babies died at this kibbutz. Okay, kids also, children, families, peaceful kibbutzim. Many of them actually pro-Palestine advocates. He said that they are
11% approval rating for Hamas as of a YouGov poll in May. Probably lower now.
Criminals and accomplices.
Okay, we don't know if they were pro-Palestine advocates.
Let's
not go that far.
What? That's pause. That's
what you
think that none of the people killed were.
I mean, I don't know that. I'm saying, like, I don't know why you're adding that. It doesn't even matter because ultimately,
no, it does
they
matter.
Still died. They shouldn't die.
Okay, right.
My position.
But it does make it especially ironic when he's calling them accomplices in genocide when their only crime is being born somewhere.
No, I agree with you.
It's evil. I just want to say that.
I agree with you.
Okay, good.
I don't disagree.
You'd probably have a shot of winning against Hamas. Do you guys think if I ran for election in the Gaza Strip before it gets turned into a parking lot, do you think I could win against Hamas? Like a new leadership, a new day breaks?
With you on this at all.
Thank you.
But that's not my. But
bro, I'm just calling it out.
Okay,
this guy's a fucking. He's a scumbag.
If you want, you have the opportunity. You can speak to him if you want on this particular issue.
I'll think about it. But
so I don't know why you're.
I'm not demanding you respond, but I simply, as a matter of doing the show, want to call out the people that disgusted me, because again, I hear this all the time. People go, "Oh, really? Well, show me an example."
I know, but
well, here's one.
No, of course there are examples of this. It's just entirely and utterly inconsequential, and I 100% stand by that.
It's not. He's an influential man. When you're,
I don't think it's inconsequential. I think that people on the online left immediately doing this, like, yeah, Hamas is liberatory and all Israeli civilians are legitimate military targets. I think it's pretty stupid. Yeah. I don't think that our behavior on this one is going to like make or break peace in the Middle East. I don't think that Israel would behave better if we behaved better, but I think it's important to talk about and call out. Yeah.
Expressing these kinds of.
Okay, let's walk through that. What do you think is the negative consequence of this? Do you think that people are going to see this and go, "Oh, I should go to"?
So should I not care about it?
I think that if you look at the reality, and I know you recognize it, a YouTuber saying this kind of thing and spending any time or any effort on this, when your moral position is clear, when mine is clear, spending any time on this whatsoever to be like, we got to clean up our own homes here, deviates from the actual message that must be unflinching. The message is that these violent means of ensuring that the occupation continues is going to inevitably lead to more violence that Israelis will be subjected to as well.
Normalizing murdering civilians.
He has no.
It leads people to have bad takes in the situation. It leads people to have essentialist takes, to overestimate the extent to which Hamas can be a liberatory force for Palestinian people. We should always be willing to criticize people on our own side for bad takes. I don't think we should hyperfixate on them and pretend that they're the only thing that matters, but there's certainly value in calling it out. And again, Second Thought is a pretty big YouTuber too. It's not like he's an inconsequential figure or whatever.
No capacity to do so.
And the result of that,
I think a better argument would be that it's anti-Semitic. You could say that, well, not what he's saying, but that it could lead to people listening to what he's saying and then think that like all Jews are responsible.
Okay,
and
so
think
it's
that,
consequential. The stuff that he's saying matters.
That would
but
be.
My point is, if I can finish my point, is that this guy who proposes to be this Palestinian advocate, he is encouraging the murder of civilians, babies, etc. In an effort to free the occupation.
I don't think he's encouraging it. I think he's justifying it.
No. No, he says, hold on. No, he says this is what liberation struggle looks like. What's the liberation struggle about murdering families? But I wanted to say this. This guy who purports to care so much about Palestine, his advocating for killing civilians, the result of that is going to be basically what's happening in Gaza now, which is that Israel, which is again genocidal, violent, psychopathic people in power are, it's like the result of this is Netanyahu gets more power and consolidates when people already hated him. The international community that was giving a lot of general support for Palestine and Gaza and all that. No, there was a lot of
Hydronal, I also don't fully agree with what Ethan is saying here. This is why I think this is like a very difficult conversation to mediate.
I know you're going to debate me. There was a lot of sentiment, especially in Europe, for being like, "Yo, we need to, Ethan, we need to look at this."
The entire planet, the entire planet has regularly condemned the illegal occupation time and time again. You know who has said off to that, the United States of America and Israel and sometimes Ukraine. So it does not matter.
Well, there are plenty of European governments right now that are complicit in this. It's not just the U.S. and Israel and Ukraine. No, Ukraine has done this before. UN vote, Israel, USA, Ukraine. They've done this before, I think. But Israel's still complaining. Ukraine's backing of 90% of UN anti-Israel votes could hurt support, Israel envoy. Man, dude, Israel is such an evil f***ing country. Oh, sorry, you're voting against our horrific occupation and brutality in the United Nations? Ooh, I don't know if we can provide you any support in the future, man. Why I mentioned it, I'm pretty sure there have been a few weird votes where Ukraine joined America in supporting Israel, but I don't remember the exact ones. Apparently, Israel is not impressed, so...
What the condemnation even looks like. It doesn't change anything. Palestinians...
Let me finish my point.
Okay, go ahead. Finish your point.
The point is...
Ethan, no!
that the result of this, these people are pro-Palestine. The result of this is literally the opposite of any possible intended consequence, which is A, Netanyahu gets more power internationally and domestically when people already fucking hated him and his government. The Western countries are basically backing up Israel's genocide and encouraging it and sanctioning it. The Gazans are now being bombed. Their food, power, water is being shut off, although that happens regardless at times.
Always.
But so like
if the argument here is that if Second Thought had not tweeted this, or if other YouTubers and other people on Twitter had not tweeted their celebrations, that do we think that the world's perspective would be different on Israel's bombing campaign currently? If you think that, like, legitimately, if not a single person had tweeted this, do you think that the situation on the ground would be different?
Does it matter to you that this might be anti-Semitic?
Oh, wait, what do you mean?
Well, you're saying you're treating this as if it doesn't matter at all, and that's
yes,
you're not.
I don't think it matters at all.
And you're not Israeli.
Yeah, I don't think
this is really dumb. I have no idea why Hassan here has to pretend that, like, a large content creator making incorrect statements has no effect. And I have no idea why we would, like, pretend to die on this hill. Like, that's really, really stupid.
I don't think it matters at all in the grand scheme of things whatsoever.
So you're saying...
Because the question
I've noticed that, like, one of the default cope takes that people will go to when they disagree with like when somebody disagrees with the take they have or whatever is they'll start doing the whole like, well, nothing we say matters thing. Like Gamergate YouTubers did this all the time where like you know, the feminazi behavior of their opponents was of great consequence, but then if it turns out that like some supporter of theirs did something bad, or if somebody got like harassed or whatever, they're all like, whoa, well, the stuff I do doesn't matter, you know. We have to be consistent with this, right? Second Thought is a super influential YouTuber. I don't know why we shouldn't hold him to a standard appropriate for that. I'll call people out who have no power whatsoever. And also, even if something has no like meaningful impact in world politics or whatever, there are still followers of this stuff, right? Like there are 50,000 people watching this. You know, there are all the people who watch Second Thought. Like there are people whose minds might be swayed by bad arguments.
Your point...
Answer my question, please. Let's say...
I agree, funny rhetorician. Yeah, I think that's pretty common.
JT and Hakeem or any number of different Twitter users had not been so callous in their indifference for civilian casualties.
Please debate Second Thought. I've tried to. He won't. Coward.
In this situation, not a single person had tweeted anything. Do you think that there would be more support for Palestinians?
Obviously not, but listen to
so
what
why
I'm
are we
saying,
having this
bro.
conversation then?
This is, dude, what Hassan will go on tirades arguing with people in his chat. Is he seriously pretending here that like, oh, sorry, you know, criticizing one of my podcast buddies, the outcome of this criticism will not change or solve the Israeli-Palestine conflict. Therefore, you know, why even do it? Come on.
He's influencing people. He's not. Is this tweet going to change what's happening on the ground? No.
No, of course
not. But these opinions being broadcast by respected people in politics is going to contribute to more violence. He is.
In what regard?
Because people
Like, do you
who
think
sympathize
Palestinians
with him are gonna be like, yeah. I mean, he's basically.
Do you think
he's
Palestinians are going to see JT's
no, the
tweets?
acceptance of people, and that,
This is so stupid and reductive. This is literally like, bro, whether or not you criticize him, like, you're not going to solve the Israel-Palestine crisis. Like, you're not going to bring peace to the Middle East. Like, why even do it? Like, fuck, nobody holds to the standard. People criticize, people argue with their chat. Hassan argues with his chat. Why do or say anything if the threshold for legitimate engagement is solving the Israel-Palestine conflict, you know?
that's anti-Semitism, bro.
The acceptance of what people?
The acceptance of people internationally who look at this guy saying, "Can kill all the Israelis because they're all occupiers."
I don't agree with that take. That
Why criticize Israel? Like, criticizing Israel isn't going to, like, stop bombs from falling on Gaza, you know?
he's making.
I'm being
here.
hyperbolic, but
Yeah.
it's not that far from what he said. I mean, he's called every Israeli an accomplice in genocide
it's
and
like-
an occupier.
It's like freaking out. It's like freaking out
Come
when
on.
the Iranian leadership like burns an American flag or whatever and be like, they hate us. They're going to come for us. They're going to kill all of us. Like, there is no conversation to be had here that is like serious because,
Bro,
like,
I just
There's plenty to talk about there. There's a ton of really interesting geopolitical analysis that you can do from Iran constantly using perceived Western interference as a scapegoat to keep their population in a state of fervor and, like, not engage meaningfully with domestic politics. What do you mean? What is why wouldn't we talk about that?
disagree. I mean, you were telling me today how much influence I have. Why does it not matter that people use this
the
kind
influence
of
you
fucking language?
have is upon
This
your
man has
fan
influence.
base. The influence you have
And
upon
that
your
doesn't matter?
the influence you have upon your fan base was specifically in regards to okay. Let me dial it back real quick and explain something. This is a basic fundamental that I believe in. I believe that our culture and our attitudes are entirely reflected on the material realities on the ground, that our material realities guide our culture and our attitude towards certain things. I don't believe that you can move the needle in the other direction. I don't believe that you can tweet a revolution. As a matter of fact, many people laugh at hashtag activism and whatnot, but I do think that it goes in the opposite direction. I do think that you can't, make a super sweet YouTube video that ends up
What the f is he saying?
destroying the white supremacist court structure in the United States of America. However, I do believe that if you go in the other direction and promote more of
Discombobulate.
the state-sponsored violence, you absolutely can motivate people to feel more justified and demand more from their governments.
Which is what he's
and to
doing,
do this.
right?
So if and only if there was a real, legitimate, well-established military machine that was capable of going and killing every single Israeli citizen, like you said, he is justifying for, this would be as damaging as the average Israeli defense of the Israeli occupying.
This is a complete goalpost move. We are not talking about whether or not, like, let me make this, before I make this political statement, let me scale it proportionally to the extent to which I think it meaningfully backs the behavior of a military organization. This is bullshit. If you have something you want to say and you have a good argument for it, then say it. That's it. That's it. If you think that someone is over fixating on something, then that is one thing to say. I think it is entirely possible that Ethan Klein might be over fixating on the behavior of some online lefties with regards to their poor response to this issue. I think that's a fine argument to make. I don't know, like, you would have to defend it, but it's like, it's a valid thing you can say. However, like, that's not the same as saying that there's no point at all in commenting on it. That's really, really dumb. By this logic, we shouldn't push back on Nazis because they're not materially in charge right now. It's brain dead. Yeah, like, bro, what, like, Nazi military org is gonna... Like, no, that's dumb. I mean, if you really want to make the case for it, like, Jewish people already suffer a massively disproportionate number of hate crimes here in the United States, and these hate crime spikes have been going up since the attack from Hamas. So, like, if you want to talk about... If all of your opinions have to be contextualized in the framework of what immediate stochastic terrorism will this prevent or enact, then, like, we should be concerned about anti-Semitism. And I am concerned about anti-Semitism, okay? Like, it's one of those, just because you're oppressed doesn't mean that you're in the right situations, where, like, there are a bunch of Arabs right now in the West and in the Middle East who fucking hate Jews. And they might be more oppressed, like geopolitically, than your average Jewish Israeli. But if the positions were swapped, they would not be better to the Jews than the Jews are to the Palestinians. Like, you can't frame the validity of an argument behind who's in power right now, because your arguments have to be rooted in like a consistent underlying logic that allows you to make meaningful moral judgments regardless of, well, will this immediately affect the situation at large? I think this is bullshit goalpost moving, and I think he knows that. I think he's trying to waffle his way out of substantively criticizing a friend of his. He doesn't want to say anything that'll get him booted off leftovers, so he can't full-throatedly defend what Second Thought is saying, but he also doesn't want to like not be kept in the good graces of his cool red fash friends, so he can't like overly condemn them. He's trying to like, that's why he said he's putting on the optics gloves, the optics hat, you know.
Force. Only then.
I just find it odd
And
that you
even
have to
then,
do the
and
whole what
even
about
then,
thing about this.
but Ethan, even then, there is no comparison, because guess what? What he is saying as a singular YouTuber is represented by our elected leaders, is represented in the reality on the ground, in the way
Like,
that
if Hassan's take here was just, hey, you do realize that even if what Second Thought said is dumb, it's not like weighted with the same institutional power as pro-Israeli sentiment is right now. If he just said that and left it at that, I think that's true, you know?
Israel is continuing its occupation and its bombing campaign in Gaza, which is why I think it is utterly and entirely a distraction to have assessments, to make assessments over.
Listen, I'm sorry that I care about it. I guess I'm just an emotional fucking idiot.
I'm not saying that at all. I perfectly understand why you care about it.
But it's important to me.
I understand why you care about it.
I disagree with that premise.
I think you should have him on to
clearly
ask
you
him.
disagree with
I think you should
his
have him
premise.
on to ask him, because I personally disagree with this assessment,
Yeah.
and I think it's unhelpful and unproductive overall.
Yeah. Okay,
but
we agree. But I think he's evil.
But
He's
I
a
also
scumbag.
will point once again that what he's saying here is the Israeli policy in the other direction. It has been the reality in the other direction.
Which is not good.
I know you don't agree with that, but I'm saying because you don't agree with that, it is.
This is the main problem I'm having with all this stuff.
I know that's the main problem you have with all this stuff, and that's why
I think it's very funny that while mounting an implicit defense of Second Thought here by like argumentum ad irreleventium, Hassan essentially says, well, Second Thought's not that bad. He's basically just doing the same thing as Israel, but reverse. Which is like, oh, isn't that really bad then? Wait, so if Second Thought is just employing the same essentialist logic that Israel is while engaging in its genocide, isn't that actually a really good argument for criticizing it?
I'm trying to say it's not even remotely a point of contention, and it's not even remotely equivalent.
Yeah, I'd like to go on leftovers, or at least I'd like to talk to Ethan on a show sometime. I don't know. I don't like, my reputation is poison. If I ever went into shit, there'd be like 1 million people in a sub that would be like, holy shit, you had this racist, transphobic, Nazi, pedophile, zoophile, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I there's like an optics wall or whatever, but I'd still really enjoy going on. I feel like there's a lot that I want to say and a lot that I could offer.
And it's not even remotely
I don't think people should be
to have this conversation.
This guy's way too comfortable just going out there publicly and being applauded.
What do you think is the solution here? What should be done with him for saying that?
What criticism doesn't stand on its own? Why do I need to like be punitive?
No, you said you're upset. I mean, I think you're well within your right to be.
I'm criticizing. I'm criticizing. I'm
Okay.
not asking for.
I think you're well within your right to be critical of it.
Yeah.
Like I said, though, I will reaffirm my position that if he was saying this about Palestinians instead of Israelis, that would not only be not condemned at all by a singular person, that would be the specific policy position of the entirety of the Western world.
So again, it's like, so he's just doing woke reverse Israel policy. That's bad. Okay, whatever, dude. Whatever. It's three. And I haven't even read donos. It's 3 and I haven't even read donos. It's the donos haven't been read and it's 3. That's enough. I could watch it forever. It's 3.